The ABN Champ Car World Series continues its push through March, and tonight it's a particularly foggy scene in Virginia. Welcome back to the Richmond Raceway here in the Champ Car World Series. This is 187 laps of action from the action track, a great place to be as we continue and are now onto the halfway point of 2024A. Welcome to Richmond. Practice with 11 minutes left on the clock. Then we'll move on to qualifying, and right now 21 drivers registered with more still to come as we're going to see a short track, our second in a row after a thrilling race in Loudon, New Hampshire just a week prior. I'm David Kreutz alongside Olivia, Hayward, and Taylor Mills tonight, your commentary crew for all of our action here racing throughout the 3/4 mile circuit. It's a little bit trickier to view the track tonight. However, we've still got a very good group of drivers getting some extra laps in, preparing themselves for what's ahead. And you'll see right now, with practice on the move, drivers are still taking times and getting to grips with what's on the circuit. You're taking a look right now at Carmen Sienna in particular, one of many drivers who has taken a lap or two. As it stands, it's going to be Brandon Cruz with 46 laps. Carmen Sienna has 71, and with a 187 lap race, the more laps the better here to get to grips with the ever-changing track conditions. It's going to be a challenge we've almost never seen on the platform before. Brand new weather system, which means the fog is going to be intense. It's going to be a lot for the drivers to handle, so when looking ahead to how the night is going to play out, weather, tire strategy, fuel runs, it's even more strategy than usual. What's it going to take to succeed under the pressure?
I think you'd have to keep a cool head in these conditions. It's going to be tricky to see what's coming up ahead of you. We've already seen a few drivers get caught up in incidents on the exit of turn 2. I was expecting it to be more of an overstay condition, where you're trying to aggressive on the tools and spin the tires, but it seems like that outside wall is coming up very, very quickly. And so, as one car has a moment already there, as I speak about it, actually no, a little bit of oversteer. So Emma Kruger starting to get aggressive on those tools, but you've got to have your eyes peeled open, because especially in these conditions, it's going to be so much more difficult to see what's going on ahead of you. And if you get distracted for even a half second, there could be a car right in front of you. So you've got to be locked in here, and it's pretty exhausting, because a turn comes up every 8 or 9 seconds, and you've got to nail them constantly with the walls so close to the optimal line.
Yeah, I said it last week. We've had a lot of drafting tracks so far this championship, and we're coming up to a few short tracks here. So you're not racing the pack anymore. You're very much racing the track. But tonight we've got that added element of the weather. Of course, it's going to make the corners themselves harder to see other cars. And especially with, as you said, Liv, how fast that turn 2 wall comes up on you. You know, just like in Las Vegas, being aggressive on the throttle is really going to hurt. But much like New Hampshire, those with patience and a deaf right foot are going to excel here. A few drivers who are carrying momentum from last week on a similar sort of track. We've got Carmen Sienna with a fantastic, I believe it was a 5th place finish last week. Lilac Zier, who of course managed to pick up a podium, and Austin Farr, who took the top step not 1 week ago. So keep an eye on those 3 tonight, because I think we're going to see some really strong performances from them.
Taking a watch all throughout the field to see drivers get into groups with what's going on. Austin Farr side by side, making a quick pass there. A lot of drivers getting loose out of turn 2. You're seeing the back straightaway. That's the home for a lot of the action we've seen so far, most of the incidents. So keep an eye on the back straightaway as weather continues to change. The fog is actually still rolling in, and when we look at our forecast right now, it's light fog for the time being. The forecast is slightly changed, which means we might see less fog within an hour and a half by this point. However, we're expecting it to stay gray for the majority of the race. Maybe the final 25 laps we're going to see clearer skies, but I wouldn't expect that to be a guarantee, especially with how quick this track comes and goes. The lap times are very, very fast. The fastest on the board right now is a 16.972 for Nicholas Pressey. He's the only driver to break through the 17-second barrier However, everyone else, with the exception of Tommy Withers, is within 17-second range, so that's going to be second all the way down right now to just about 23rd. Everyone else is very tight to one another on speed, and these are quick laps. Even though there's just under 200 of them, it's still going to be a short night, all things considered, if everyone keeps calm and weathers a storm, quite literally, with some success. That remains to be seen, though, as we still have some time for drivers to roll through, get some practice laps in, and almost everyone except for Alex Martin has put one time down with about 6 minutes left in the session before all is said and done.
Yeah, lap times in about the 17-second range, and that is going to be very important as we get into this race. That is an average speed of 160 miles an hour. Talking about 250, 260k as a conversion for that. But that is lightning fast in terms of an average pace around this track. And this will be very important because the pit road speed is 40 miles an hour. 1/4 of that pace. Green flag pit stops are going to be avoided whenever possible. And we're going to see that play out through, like, maybe some fuel saving to avoid having to come down pit road. And maybe hold out for a caution. But obviously, you want to try and maximize pace on tracks. There's going to be a fine balancing act for our drivers here between strategy and outright pace.
The thing that always surprises me about these cars is how the fuel saving map doesn't really affect your pace too much. Like, it's super viable to just roll around in map 5 for an entire race at a track like this, because it doesn't really affect your acceleration or top end speed enough to actually be a problem. But of course, that's when you compare how much time you spend under the pit lane speed limit as compared to out on track. But even then, the differences between map 5 and map 1 is almost negligible, because you can still make moves and you can still set decent lap times. And at the end of the day, it's going to come down to tyre strategy here, because we've got quite low banking, haven't we? We've got quite low banking here, haven't we, David?
I'd say so. We're looking on board now with Bobby Blowers, and the banking, I think it's not about the degree, quite literally. It's more about that momentum, something we were talking upon earlier in the show already. You can carry speed all throughout the track with an average pace of about 160 miles an hour, just touching upon that. It all comes down to how you take the first corner, I feel, especially when we look at when the race starts, and if we have restarts as well. You want to start carrying speed through the first 2 turns, then you push down the back straightaway, and 3 and 4, that's not the end of the turn, it's only the beginning of the front straightaway, which is banked and curved, so it's going to be that D shape, which means you can preserve a lot more momentum and turn yourself in nicely again for the first 2 turns. It's a bit of a cycle here in Richmond, and that helps these drivers out in preserving momentum if they do it right. But if you mess up on a turn or two, it's going to set you back for at least a lap and a half, and it's going to be a very vulnerable spot to be in. Drivers definitely want to avoid that vulnerability and figure it out all before the race gets going. Now we have 4 drivers within 1/10 of a second of a 16-second lap. They're getting close. Maybe a few drivers will break the barrier, but right now, nobody has done so, as it's going to be Miles Zier, save for Nicholas Pressey. And now Zier going to come in. Sophie Connell also going to be on the way. Lily Peltier-Sharp and Parker Alexander on pit road as well. A lot of drivers down in pit road, but still most of which have gotten times. I think right now they're all trying to figure out the longer runs, given how different it's going to be with the conditions, and we previously mentioned it before the broadcast, it's a wide fuel window of about 15 lap spread from full push to full save.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's such an important factor in this race. We mentioned that the delta between the pit road speed and the running speed on the racetrack, you're gonna lose at least 2, potentially 3 laps making that pit stop. We do run by stock car rules here, of course, in terms of caution procedure. It's still a single foul restart, but we allow a lucky dog, and we allow all wave rounds, of course. But you only get 1 lucky dog, and it only gets you 1 lap back. So if you are stuck 2-3 laps down when the caution comes out, you are in big trouble, and you're going to be lucky to get your way back into the lead at any point before the end of the race as a big wreck. Again, you see that loose condition coming off turn 2, and it just exacerbates all the way down the backstretch. Nicholas Pressey taking a ride off the nose of Sophie Connell there.
What a wreck that was. Pressy going to be up and over. And we've seen a lot of those incidents that are coming down out of turn 2. They don't really occur on the exit immediately. You see them come down the back straightaway, loose and wobbling. Some drivers head into the infield wall and end up making contact there. Others of which get sent up the track again. And for Pressy, he rode all the way to the entry of turn 3, which goes to show how far some of these drivers carry before there's a lot of trouble that comes their way. Now, it's good to get that down and out in practice here and figure out what's the limit. Definitely don't want to see a lot more of that, especially with the string of 2 chaotic races. Namely, of course, the big one in Las Vegas. It was a little more subtle in New Hampshire, but the Magic Mile took a lot of drivers out when all was said and done. And even though most of which right now in Richmond, not major incidents, if one car gets involved with another, the chain reaction, it expands, and it expands very fast, to say the least.
I think the thing that's catching a lot of these drivers out tonight is obviously we're coming from a racetrack that has next to no banking to one that has loads. So we haven't ran on a banked circuit in a few weeks at this point, and now our drivers are back on a banked circuit, and they're maybe being given too much confidence in how much grip their car's going to have, perhaps forgetting just how tight these corners are. As we've said, the average lap speed 160 miles an hour. You are doing a hell of a lot of speed through the corners. Like your V min is still over 100 miles an hour, and those drivers are going to be feeling it. Even though those drivers are virtual, you're still going to be feeling it in your arms as you're trying to lug a super duper heavy Dallara IR18 around this racetrack tonight.
Yeah, you've got to remember that while there is that 14 degree of banking on this surface as we head into qualifying here, the corner radiuses are so much tighter. It's a 3/4 mile track, not a 1 mile track. You're on the brakes, you're downshifting multiple times, and you're really cranking the wheel to try and get it turned through 1 and 2. And then you have all that load on the car, and then it flattens out to the bet it only has 2 degrees of banking. And so as that car unloads, you can very easily lose the right rear. As Ryan comes round turn 4 to start a lap, 8 degrees of banking on the front stretch, and then throws it into turn 1, not quite hooking the low line, trying to carry a bit more corner speed, and then inches away from the wall. If you make a tap with the wall, that will invalidate your lap by iRacing rules. Comes through 3 and 4 again, tightest of margins, but it looks like that lap will get on the board, and it'll be a 17.4 to open up the session. Not quite what we saw in our practice sessions, but it's just the first lap. The speed is going to be building. You're going to want to loosen the car up a little bit as the run goes on, and coming through lap 2 at 17.2, much better. I think we're going to see these times continue to fall as the session goes on.
Watching now with Nicholas Pressy, who was the fastest driver in our practice session. Can he break through and get under the 17-second mark once again? Looks like it's going to be a 17.24, fastest time in the session so far for Pressy, only to be usurped by Christina Ryan. Ryan going to go fastest by 39 thousandths of a second, and there goes Parker Alexander. Now it's going to be number 45 on top with Mo Perry second, and drivers are approaching the barrier. Nicholas Pressy gets closest for now, 17.046, and if anyone's going to beat him by a convincing margin, it's going to be Parker Alexander, 17.005. Almost makes it under 17 seconds. That's good for a provisional pole, and if anyone else really wants to knock that out the park, they're going to have to throw down a tremendous lap. Lily Peltier sharp, not much on the final lap. Alex Miller to second with a 17.013, not at all a bad lap, and right now, those times are getting very close to one another, even closer than practice, and it's a total of, wow, it's 8 drivers within 69 thousandths of a second as it stands, and 7 of which are within 60 thousandths, 6 of which 41 thousandths. It's tight margins up in front, and our podium is separate by only 13 thousandths. If you want to understand how close you have to be as a perfection to grab that pole in this series, I think that's just about the best example we could give all season long. And in total, it's going to be out 9 drivers within that 10th, and all of which are still 69 thousandths apart.
It's a pretty nice margin there, but of course we haven't seen everyone set a lap yet. Chris Forsyth, of course, our race winner from Watkins Glen. Austin Farr still hasn't set a lap time yet. Brandon Cruz still sat in the pit lane. Lilac Zier, Alex Martin, and Carmen Sienna still sat in the pit lane. This is something that I've talked about a few times during qualifying. We have a lot of time where we're sat, and all the times are just flying in, one after one after one after one after one, and it's so hard to keep track of. But we have some of these drivers that like to leave it later in the session to go out, because what they do is it's a little bit of warming up the engine strategy to it. You know, let the engine heat sink a little bit, get it up to the optimum temperature so you got the most power possible. Because remember, that is mapped in iRacing, maps simulated in iRacing. But also what they want is a benchmark. So all of these guys that have gone out really early in the session have gone out and set their times, not really knowing how fast they need to go. Whereas Craig Forsyth, Zach McBride, Austin Farr, Alexia, all those guys who are only going out on track now know exactly how hard they need to push. They know what they're capable of, so they know what sort of margin they want to be working within to not only set a safe lap time, but a quick one.
It's actually very interesting because we've often seen drivers go for sort of a cool lap and then a push lap, and sort of alternate between the two to try and optimize their sort of tire temperatures, the temperatures in general, and to create a nice arc coming out of 4 to start your lap. It feels like a much more road course-like qualifying session here. As Lilac there goes top of the bottom, Austin Farr immediately. 2 new drivers at the very top, the 2 drivers breaking into those 16-second marks. And we're seeing maybe a little bit of that one, but again, the time just seemed to improve as the session's gone. And Lilac there goes faster again. And Austin Farr does improve, but it's not enough to overtake the 89 car. You see the lap time just seemed to get faster and faster over your 4-lap stint. As a dramatic end to the session there. We still have a couple more drivers with laps to go. Alex Martin yet to leave the pit lane. But there's not so much of that ebb and flow in terms of lap pace. It's just all-out push to try and warm those tyres up as much as you can in these cold conditions to get the rear end to come around the way you need it to. And of course to burn some fuel off. That, like, when you're accelerating and decelerating as much as you are on a track like this, the extra inertia of the additional fuel load is gonna hold you back from making those quick changes. So much more road course like in how I'm seeing this, and Lila Dzir, who we know is a fantastic all-rounder, has shown some incredible pace and just continues to get a few more laps in, a bit of practice while there's still fuel in the tank. 4 minutes left in this qualifying session, and currently no action on track in terms of lap times. Brandon Crew is our final qualifier, who I think was very much just setting some sighters, but wants to start at the back of the field.
She did that in Miami as well, didn't she?
What, pole position?
I know, stayed out on track and did some more laps just to get her eye in a little bit more.
Oh, I mean, it's always a smart thing to do.
Okay.
In like 2-lap sessions, on like a road course in officials, oftentimes if I know I'm not improving on my lap 2, I will go back to the pit lane and put the race set back on, and just go back out and turn a few laps, or with the additional fuel, to sort of get out of qualifying mode and into race mode, because in 3 minutes there's no warm-up session, we are straight into gridding and for the 2-wide start. So if you can find that bit of consistency again and put your brain back in the right mode, it can give you a good edge on lap 1, lap 2, when the other drivers might still be finding their footing.
Speaking of edge, who do we think has the edge tonight? It's time for the picks. We haven't discussed this pre-race, so I'm putting these two on the spot. But just to change things up a little bit, and you're not allowed to skip. David, you're going to go first tonight.
Don't get the chance to do that all too often. We got a lot of really good drivers on the table. Lilac Zier and Austin Farr, they strike out in my mind. They shattered the previous times. I just want to highlight that first off. We didn't see anyone break past the 17-second barrier with ease in the previous session. Lilac Zier got down to a 16.92, but I'm not going to pick either of our front row drivers. I'm taking Parker Alexander. I've seen signs of improvement, podium runs. I think there's pace there. I think Parker Alexander is due for a breakout and perhaps a first win in the season.
Olivia, I'm going to hand it over to you now.
I don't want to say the pick here because I really do not want to put a commentator's curse on this driver. But given what I've seen in this session and last time we came here in season 3, I'm gonna have to go with Lilac Zay, our pole sitter. Obviously incredible pace in qualifying, running up at the start, but back in season 3 had a great fuel safe strategy and was on track to win that race on that strategy, if not for a mistake entering pit lane in that green flag run that we had. But we know that she's so good at these alternate strategies, trying something different, and I think if she can put out those mistakes that we saw last time here, and we saw how consistent she was last week at New Hampshire, I think she could pull off another one of those strategy masterclasses where strategy is so important here.
Okay, I like those pits. I like those picks. I like those picks. But I think for me, I'm going to be a little bit bold on this one, because we've seen how well this driver can move down the field, and they're not necessarily starting in a good spot tonight. But they're good at traffic management. They're good at dealing with the dirty air. They make really good pit stop calls, mostly every week. And I think tonight's going to be the end of a not fantastic run of form for Christina Ryan, starting down in 15th position. She's going to use all of her wits and racing know-how to fight her way through the field tonight here at Richmond and perhaps take a win.
With qualifying over, all three I think are pretty good picks. Qualifying is so tight that a driver who's in 15th is only 3/10 off the pole and about 1/10.5 outside of the top 10. Every driver, with the exception of Brandon Cruz, is within 7/10 of our pole sitter. It's going to be razor thin margins all night long. And we're just about ready to see 187 laps of racing here from the virtual Richmond Raceway. Let's check out your starting grid for tonight's event and kick it off and look at your front row. Lilac Zay are going to be in the pole position with a 16.892, the fastest lap in this session by over a 10th, previously coming in from practice. Austin Farr going to join with another impressive lap, and Austin looking to go to victory lane for what could be the third time. It's going to be outside of row 1, 16.92, with third then being the driver of the 45. That's Parker Alexander. Alex Miller will then be in fourth, and it's going to be fifth for Elias Flores, with Emily Howe in sixth and seventh, then being Eli Sasick. Eighth, Carmen Sienna, and then from there to round out the top 10, it's a 17.046 for Nicholas Pressey and Lily Peltier Sharp, 17.064. Third to 10th, separated by less than a tenth of a second. It's margins of thousands inside our top 10.
Another 3,000th batch for P11, Bruce Silver, line up alongside Bobby Blowers on the sit-through of the grid here for tonight's race. Ruby Acosta and Mo Perry with matching lap times. Mo Perry being snake-bitten every race so far, looking to finally find some good luck here at Richmond. Season 2 champion Christina Ryan lines up alongside Trade Forsyth. Behind them, the Season 3 champion of Emma Kruger, with Ruby Estes completing the 9th row of our field today. Bryce Saucier and Sophie Connell close out the top 20, with Joshua Gaiman, Stat McBride and Tommy Withers our final competitive lap times in qualifying. Brandon Cruz looking to start from the rear of the field, and behind Alex Martin, who has not set a time in the session and may not be able to take the start here. So it could be looking at a 24-car field for our race today.
Taking a glimpse from top to bottom, it's a stacked lineup tonight. And one thing I want to touch upon that isn't related to any other previous statements, I think we got to see how the field plays out as well. We saw practice incidents that ended up becoming much larger in size, just with one or two drivers alongside one another. One thing I really want to highlight tonight, Richmond, just about every groove can work. It's not like Loudon where you almost always want to be on the bottom or the top extremely. You can use the middle side. You can use top, the bottom. You can't use the apron, just wouldn't work out tonight because of the banking, of course. However, everything is fair game above the yellow line. I think we're going to see some drivers try to manipulate that for, of course, their own advantage. Bottom side for Lilac Zay, the opportunity to maybe cut deep and save some of that distance. For the drivers up top, though, like Austin Farr and company, I'm intrigued at how they'll use up the very high portion of the track and maybe try to get the best of both worlds through the middle. Momentum being such a big deal at Richmond, if you get in a rhythm, you're going to stay in a rhythm. More often than not, at least, if you can save your tires and everything else, that speed is just going to come with you and it's going to stay naturally. One lap to green here, so before we get on to it, how about some final thoughts as we say hello to racing in the action track?
One thing to note real quick, Nicholas Pressey qualified 9th, electing to start from pit lane for this. We've seen it before from the MPM driver, but with how fast this track, how short it is, he could fall a lap down here before even getting up to speed. So that was something to watch out for. But looking to start up early trouble, and I think try to filter too wide through the exit of 2, we could see some danger here.
Time to figure out if they can weather the storm, make it all work out. The fog gonna be pouring on the track, but Lilac Zier takes control and the green flag is out. Welcome to the Richmond Raceway.
Austin Farr making the most of his momentum from last week's race in New Hampshire and straight on it against Lilac Zier, holding the inside for almost 4 corners straight to try and make a move work as these two cars are still side by side. That's almost 2 laps in a row now, but both of these guys raced really, really well at New Hampshire, and Lilac Zier backs out thinking better of it and tucks in behind last week's race winner Austin Farr for now.
And I'm thinking she might already be keeping an eye on the fuel number here. Being sat behind another car in traffic is a perfect time to crank that map up and just ride for a little bit. But she's under attack already from Alex Miller, and there's a full train behind, so might be a bit too early to think about that. We'll have to see how the race progresses on. I think they filtered out mostly single file behind. There were some 3 wide moments earlier, but it's Commentator and Emily Howe rounding out the top 5 and running that high side to get into the clean air from these front 3, all ripping on that yellow line. Emily Howe dives to the inside of Carmen Sienna, but cannot quite clear.
How about that for momentum though? Carmen Sienna, off the back of a fantastic result in New Hampshire, has again kept that momentum going forward and moved up 4 spots off the start already.
Now we're
one driver who's not thinking about the fuel number.
Who, Liv? Who? Who's not thinking about the fuel number?
At the edge moment, Emma Crude got a little bit loose on the entry of 3, managed to catch it, and everyone else was able to filter their way around. But already some drivers starting to get aggressive on those tools, and the right rear is not happy about it back in this pack. Where they're running side by side as well, taking away each other's lines. This could get dicey very quickly as we see cars drifting up as well on the entry, just cannot quite get the turn on the right front.
Watch this driver.
Connell taps the wall. Austin Farr already breaking away with a 1.1 second lead, is maybe taking the thought of get out of the trouble while there's still a pack forming, and see if you can put some of these cars a lap down in a green flag run. I mean, if you can do that and the caution comes out, they're not concerned for you for the rest of the race. They'll be way to the back on the restarts, and suddenly your field is cut down from 24 competitors to maybe just 18 or 19 already.
Looking right now in that mid-pack, as you mentioned, 2x2 as it stands. We look at Ruby Estes having a fight now, Moperi and company. Austin Farr getting away pretty good in the early laps at least. And now the question becomes, do the drivers choose to ride it out? We were mentioning the settings inside of the cockpit these drivers have to work with. Maybe going to be some fuel strategy played out early. If you're not up in front leading laps, maybe lie back and start to save up, as the leader in Austin Farr might be pushing a little bit harder. Now, we did discuss that it's going to be a big range of fuel tonight. You can get up to 80 laps potentially if you were to ride it out and save extremely. However, not quite sure which drivers are going to be going for such a strategy, as now it's going to be Parker Alexander side by side with Carmen Sienna. Sienna gets the better of Alexander, and it will be now a move on to position number 5. Carmen going to come through, and she'll be ahead of Parker Alexander as it stands. Front group is going to be small, but it's going to be some of the quickest in the field. Lilac Zier fades back ever so slightly, and now it's going to be Emily Howe going to the inside on that number 89. I'm thinking Lilac Zier, of all the drivers right now, might be chilling out a little bit more so on the fuel and being much more conservative, keeping up with the higher map setting, shall we say, and ensure there's a little more fuel by the time we head down a pit road. If we were to stay on the green, that might be the preferred strategy. As you can see, Lilac Zier continuing to get past, however, doesn't look to be due to damage, just looks to be a different strategy, hoping to run longer than anyone else on the circuit.
Yeah, just to bring up last week again really quickly, we did see Lilac Zier making an alternate strategy work at New Hampshire, so it's more than expected that she's going to be doing exactly the same today, Liv.
She loves a fuel save. Anyone who's seen her race before knows she loves a fuel save. If this race stays green, it will be a 2-stop regardless of your fuel setting, but we're not thinking about the race stay green, we're thinking about extending your stint to not pit early in the cycle, because that caution coming out mid-cycle is going to be what ends in people's races. If that happens, then you'll be glad if you've been the one to stay out and extend on your fuel tank. And so it's the safe choice, really. If you're going for outright pace and think you have the pace to win the race, like it seems Austin Farr does, run up front, try and put some cars a lap down already, as Brandon Cruz is only about 3 seconds ahead of our leader. But if you want to try and play it a bit safe and just lock in a sort of solid top 5 position, extending the stint is gonna... It could pay massive dividends, depending on the timing of our cautions.
Austin Farr going to be ahead now by just about 3.5 seconds and still gaining. If you look at the intervals right now, you'll see how far behind the rest of the field is. Some drivers are already going to be jeopardy of being put 1 lap down. We look ahead at Brandon Cruz, who's running currently in 24th, about 20 seconds off of our leader, and the back of this field might be caught up to before we get to the lap number 50 mark. So some drivers have to watch out already. Austin Farr is coming in quickly, and that's going to set the tone for the rest of the race if, of course, Farr has a successful first stint and puts a lot of these drivers 1 lap down. Maybe a fair prediction would be to say anyone about 20th on back is at huge risk of going 1 lap down. It's not like other racing disciplines like stock cars and such where these laps are above 20 seconds. We're of course, in a 17-second bracket now. So if you're 10 seconds or back, you're about a half lap behind already. And more these drivers are falling back. Brandon Cruz is 15 seconds behind in the last scoring loop, which means about 2 seconds away from being put 1 down. And there's a few drivers that are coming his way backward. Austin Farr definitely looking hungry.
Caution.
And there's trouble as we look at the back of the field.
That's Brandon Cruz's race almost saved there. He's not going to go lap down in this particular stint, but David, have you got an eye on what happened there?
Trying to figure out what that was.
Sophie Connell tagged the wall out of 2 and couldn't get it back under control. Tate Bryce Socio and looks like maybe also Tommy Withers collected in it as well, it looks like. As well as Zach McBride catching an unfortunate meatball in avoidance of this incident.
Yeah, it's easy enough to do. As we were talking about at the start of the race, that turn 2 wall just comes up on you so fast. Sophie Connell, they did have a few incidents earlier in practice. They have been struggling with this track in particular, but it's such a shame to see them go out so early in this race.
Pit lane, very active. Looks like Carmen Sienna, the lead car, to stay out here, and Emma Kruder will follow, but everyone else, except Zach McBride as well, staying out to maybe just pick up a couple spots, but that car does need to come in for repairs. but 2 cars taking the gamble, everyone else taking the hard left down pit road, and that will neutralize the strategy so far, but it could open up a new strategy call of its own. We could be on the edge of a one-stop here with 160 laps to go, and probably close to 155 when the green flag comes back out into the air.
Emily Howe looks to be the winner off a pit road there, getting ahead of Austin Farr. So a big move up for Emily to get that track position ahead of the driver who has dominated the early stage of this race. Maybe that's going to be more important as the laps go down and down. Emma Kruger, Carmen Sienna decide to stay out in front, and we'll see whether or not that's going to be the right call. Maybe some drivers, they try to get the lap lead and go down and in. 28 laps, though, that's the difference. And lap times haven't been too far off of where it was before. I think for both Sienna and Kruger alike, this is a very valuable strategy call. Lap time's not really going to be falling off badly yet. Maybe there's an opportunity to stay there up in front and not have to worry all too much about it.
We think about how quickly the front right tyre should wear off at this circuit. With the really tight corner radiuses and quite high banking, temperature can build up in the front right quite quickly, and of course that means it starts to degrade a lot quicker. But we were wrong about strategy once already this season. We made the wrong call on what the preferred tyre was at Charlotte Motor Speedway. So perhaps the tyres won't affect the drivers as much as we're expecting, but it's going to be something to keep an eye on for the next stint.
Yeah, I think this was a decent call for Emma Kruger to make. Was quite far back in the field, and it's an interesting roll of the dice, trying to get yourself ahead and then hope that a later caution lines everyone up on cycle again. It feels like a bit of an unnecessary risk for Carmen Sienna, but this is a lap led. This is bonus points. You do get score points per laps led in this series. But we have to see how quickly Emily Howe and Austin Farr swallow these two up and try and make sail again. We saw Emily Howe, after clearing Lila Zir for second, was starting to run similar pace to Austin Farr and very quickly pulled a gap. Was still a few seconds back, of course, but was holding step. And so now that Emily is leading the train of cars on fresh tyres, as actually I will note, Christina Ryan and Nicholas Pressey, it looks like, came in for fuel only in that stop. So Christina Ryan has jumped up a fair few spots from that. And it could be something to preserve a tyre set for later in the race while taking that additional fuel on to avoid the risk of getting trapped lap down in the cycle.
Alternate strategy with fuel and pit stops. Carmen Sienna with a chance to race lead this time by. Going to be our leading driver as the 96 takes us right back to the Geico restart line. Back in control. Sienna gets the jump. Emma Kruger not too far behind. And your drivers on the old tires already going to get caught up there. Kruger side by side with Emily Howe. And Emily's got momentum right up top. Has to back out as Kruger gets the spot right back in return.
Oh, and contact near the back of the field. Trade Forsyth and Eli Sassett with a bit of netcode in turn 3, but they're going to keep it pointed in the right direction. We stayed green for now, and we're going to see how... Actually, Emily Howe is under a bit of pressure here from Austin Farr, who is not happy to be jumped in pit lane, and is already looking to make a move. This is going to hold those two up a little bit, and give Emma Kruger and Carmen Sienna a bit of breathing room to lead this patch for just a little bit longer.
Yeah, an interesting thing to note, we usually say that a differential in tyres causes a little bit of chaos in the races, but we saw at New Hampshire, our field of drivers have been really well behaved on judging that speed differential in the corners and still making the passes nice and cleanly. So
Carmen Sienna fastest lap.
Wow, okay, that was unexpected. See, this is what I'm saying, maybe the tyre wear isn't as dramatic as perhaps we expected. That's only 34 laps on these tyres. And we know they can go about as far as the fuel tank can go without seeing a significant amount of wear.
Mo Perry loose off of turn 2 and catching the inside wall. That is going to be another early end to the 28th day. Will not bring out a caution and safely down pit road. But we're seeing that turn 2 be the problem corner for everyone here. And I think the key thing to note here is the tyres have heat. When you don't change, when you protect the tyres, they have to warm them up. And we saw in qualifying the laps get faster over time, but now, as the fresh tyres are bedding in, Emily Howe and Austin Farr are hounding the battle of the number 70 of Emma Kruger. Emma holding off for now, which is letting Carmen Sienna run away a little bit, but Emily Howe looking almost 3 wide through turn 4, and Austin Farr trying to pick away at the inside. Emma Kruger's going to defend for as long as possible, no reason not to, but I think we're starting to see the fresh tyres come in these cold temps. The warm-up takes some time, but it seems like it's done, and they're going to try and freight train Emma on the outside now as Austin Farr clears, but Emma's fighting back to the inside. And it's not going to be enough. The momentum on the outside lets Austin Farr run away, and Emily Howe will pick up pieces and move up into 3rd place once again.
Goodness me, it was almost that turn 2 wall again. Emma Kruger almost sideways coming off that corner there. But really impressive bit of driving from our 2 drivers out on old tyres at the moment to make that work so far. But Austin Farr has now kind of ran away into the distance of Emily Howe and Emma Kruger as he begins to chase down Carmen.
Don't look now, but Christina Ryan in a similar predicament here. Also, remember, having a heavier car, the lighter fuel load is going to help you a little bit. Christina Ryan has the worst of both worlds, and Leah Pelletier-Sharp is the first of a pack of cars hounding her rear diffuser. And Lilac Zero is back here, maybe wondering if this was worth the fuel save, if this is a little bit too dangerous for this phase of the race, as Pelletier-Sharp gets around and Christina Ryan, forced onto the very top line, is going to now get overtaken by Bobby Blowers as well, and just slowly falls down the order. The strategy gamble starting to backfire here as the stint progresses.
Christina Ryan still going to be held up top here as the mid-pack is working. Austin Farr is gaining time, and it is now much clearer than it was before. That time through, going to gain about 0.2 of a second, it looked like. Just enough to get through closer to Carmen Sienna, although Sienna is still running quickly, not going to be enough to stay up in the lead. That lap, however, was quicker than 5th place Emma Kruger, and just about on par with Alex Miller and Lily Pelletier-Sharp. So while Sienna looks to have mastered the tire saving with this distance, it's not going to be enough for the driver who simply has the younger set. Austin Farr now going to be within 1 second with another 0.2 gain that time by. Should expect to see perhaps a new race leader by the end of lap 60 if this pace were to continue. No telling, though, how easy it's going to be to pass Carmen when Austin gets up there. Bobby Blauer is going to be all the way high, getting right by Lilac Zier. Eli Sasic now going to round out the top 10. The biggest pack in the circuit is going to be Ruby Estes, working alongside Ruby Acosta and Bruce Silva. So with this 3-car battle here coming down the front straightaway, it's about to fight for 14th. And it looks like Bruce Silva gets the spot and is now going to be just behind Nicholas Pressey in accordance with timing and scoring. A wiggle there from Estes, it appears. However, all stays well as the number 17 keeps it straight on the track.
I'm not gonna lie, the only thing I can think of right now is how we're missing a Ruby for a famous song title. Why does it always come back to song titles for me?
Emma Kruger taking a hard hit of the turn 2 wall and down pit road. The strategy gamble not paying off all the tyres, just giving up too quickly, and this will put Emma Kruger multiple laps down as she turns in for tyres and maybe some repairs as well. Back out on track, though, Carmen Sienna still making the most of the alternate strategy, but Austin Farr is catching, gained a 10th that lap, and although the dirt is going to start playing a big factor, the fresh tyres could be enough for a difference, if not for playing the waiting game. Carmen Sienna is short on fuel, have to pit probably in about 20 laps time. Austin Farr can go a lot longer.
We know Austin isn't in a rush here tonight because we've already seen how fantastic his pace has been in the clean air, and he's very much taking advantage of everything he's got in his back pocket right now. Because he knows Carmen's on an alternate strategy to him, so he knows he doesn't need to pass her yet.
Oh, caution.
As the yellow flag waves.
Bad stretch.
Acosta and
Two-car
Estes,
incident.
both of the Rubies involved in that one.
We'll see what happened here. Estes was leading going into turn 2, it looks like. Run the replay back. On the back of Bruce Silva, and then on the exit just turns loose. Trying to be too aggressive, getting the car away from the wall, and it overcorrects the other way. 2 more cars likely out of our running today. And we'll now get to see what the calls happen on pit road here. Emma Kruger has left the session, did not want any further part of this race. As, good lord, what was that replay? I didn't catch that in my first look. Josh Gaiman taking a hard hit.
Christ, it almost looked like he was taken off the end of an aircraft carrier. Although this now saving Christina Ryan's race a little bit, as Sienna and Far How, Alexander Miller and Blowers all down on pit lane. Christina can abandon the strategy that she put herself on and hopefully get herself in a better position for the rest of this race, even if it's just a tyre change right now.
Yeah, I mean, she is up 5 spots here from where she started the race, so I think we'd say the strategy worked out a little bit. And she has the extra set in her back pocket. You only have 6 total to start the race, the 1 on the car and then 5 left in the pits. Christina Ryan choosing to take fuel only in the first stop, as well as the gamble from Carmen Sienna to not pit at all, means they both have that 1 extra set, and if we get lots of cautions in the second half of the race, we could see that pay dividends if they have time to get them fired up for, and then fight through the field, of course.
Emily Howe winning the race off pit lane once again, makes her way up to the effective race lead for those who have pitted this time round. Interestingly to me though, Carmen Sienna with a lighter fuel load and a longer stop still managed to come out in front of Austin Farr.
Oh, and this is the reason here. A lot of drivers taking notes from Christina Ryan, or potentially just feeling how long it took the tyres to warm up there. A lot of cars near the front of the field choosing to take fuel only. Emily Howe, Parker Alexander, and Lila Zir, Craig Forsyth, all just coming in for a top-up. And so Carmen Sienna and Austin Farr, your lead cars who have taken a full set of 4 tyres. And so the strategy gambles continue. 2 more cars staying out in this phase of the stint, and a few more keeping their old tyres on for another fuel run.
Once again, the front row of our restart going to be made up all old tires. That's another difference. We might have not expected it to work, but Carmen Sienna had it up in front previously. It looks like a chance to do so once again, this time in the hands of Lily Peltier-Sharp and Eli Sasek right behind. The 2 drivers are running on a 27-lap stint, similar to that of Carmen Sienna and Emma Kruger that time by. So not much of a difference, but the real question is execution. Sienna was up inside the top 10 previously. Both Sasek and Peltier-Sharp were fringe top 10 drivers in this previous run. The question really becomes, do you think now they have the pace to hold on and do what Carmen Sienna did, or is it going to be easier for drivers like Emily Howe, Parker Alexander, or even Carmen Sienna here to make the passes and make these old tires history?
I mean, it kind of throws everything up into the air a little bit, seeing how well Christina and Carmen ran in that last run. So I actually don't have an opinion on this. I'm just excited to see how this unfolds.
The way to pick them, I can't choose not to answer, but in this case you can. I think it's about the tyre warm-up period, and I think, again, from what we saw in qualifying, these old tyres are going to be fired up immediately, and they're going to be quit for maybe 5-10 laps, but they are going to start to fall off, and the new tyres are going to hold up a lot better as the pace car takes the hard left onto pit road to end our second caution of the day, and Lily Peltier-Sharp gets the jump on Eli Sasek, and we run again. With 130 laps left to go at the action track, we are back racing once again.
Ooh, a little bit of contact there at the front. Eli Sasek diving down the inside of turns 1 and 2 to try and make a run on Lily Peltier-Sharp. 2 cars into 1, not quite working out there. But fortunately, the contact minor enough to keep them both in this race still.
Looks like now Peltier-Sharp getting the advantage there. Now we'll take a look back at the midfield. What's going on as we're taking the reports?
Yeah, maybe a little bit of desperation from Sasek not wanting to be the first one swallowed up on those old tyres. But the move doesn't work, and I think now the 18 is going to be even more defensive if the 9 gets back to the rear diffuser. Once you get that first hit, you don't leave the door open for a second. Another caution, looks like another instant on the back stretch here. and a single car incident with Mo Perry, who tried to bring the car back out after taking a long repair earlier, and just was not able to keep the car rolling, unfortunately. And that will be our third caution of the night, just a single car incident, and so a little bit of respite, but I doubt we'll see any strategy gambles here. Everyone will be restarting in the same situation we were, except those fresh tyres now have a heat cycle through them, a little bit of running, and they could fire up a lot quicker next time by.
Well, Perry going to be back on the way here, so damage for the driver who's already 19 laps down. Caution is out. And we're looking back up in the front of the field. It looks like about 15 drivers are going to be on the lead lap as it stands. Ruby Acosta scored just a lap down. Going to get that lap back this time by. You see going past the pace car, and attrition playing into the game here. Strategy pretty early, about a third of the way through, but it's been a fast early stint. So we're going to watch out for who's got the call next. Looks like front runners Peltier, Sharp, and Eli Sassick alike will stay out, and the warm-up period short for the drivers on new tires, and it's actually going to help out more to keep the tires a little cooler for those on the older rubbers. So I think we're going to see a very similar restart to that of the previous for Peltier, Sharp, and Eli Sassick alike. Maybe a little more cause for optimism for both these drivers as they figured it out the first time. Now there's reason to believe they can do it once again.
We've got a really long race and stint right in front of us here. So the answer to the tyre question isn't going to be given to us until a good 50 or so laps from here, because we've got a lot of cars that are going to be going very long on fuel from now. So I think we're just going to have to, us and the drivers are going to have to be a little bit patient to see how this one shakes out.
Yeah, I think it's not a question of if, but when the tyres cross over, but that's still a very open question, and I'm sure the drivers at the front will be hoping that when is a long way from now, so they have plenty of time to capitalise on their decision. It's going to be an interesting call as we are still 2 to green here. Got a little bit more time to catch our breath, and for the drivers as well. Again, on a Dream 5, a corner comes past every 9 seconds, and we've seen how tricky the corners are. It's non-stop, your heart rate is pounding, and so this little break period is going to be helpful for everyone in the field here who's had a frantic 60 laps so far, just to catch your breath, maybe get a drink if you got one nearby, and just reset and refocus on the task ahead, because we have a long way to go, and it's not going to get any easier.
You know how much I like to bring it up. Driver mentality. Keep your head screwed on straight, keep the car out the wall, keep your fights nice and clean, and you're going to go well here.
Looking up ahead, 1 lap to green, this time by Lily Peltier Sharp up in the front of the field with Eli Sassick again. Held it up previously, now hoping to repeat it for the second time. Austin Farr got by Carmen Sienna on that very short run. That's going to be 1 pass for position you got to look out for. Both drivers have had experience with being the leader, and now for Farr 52 up ahead of Sienna, maybe a chance to break through with Parker Alexander and Emily Howe alike. We'll find out whether or not that's possible. But first, of course, your leaders will get to the stripe and bring us back to the green flag. Let's see what can be done here. The number 18 up and away. Pace car down and in. Green flag and return once again at the lap number 66 mark. Back on the move here in Richmond.
And you see already Lily Pelletier Sharp diving low through 1 and 2, not wanting to open the door for the number 9 car. And that little bit of contact is going to be in both drivers' minds here. Fighting behind, Emily Howe is looking to get through on those fresh tyres. It looks like they fired up very quickly here. Parker Alexander and Austin Farr not long to follow, but for now, Eli Sassick, who's starting to focus on defense as well as offense, has it covered.
Alex Miller, who we saw picking up the pace in that second stint of this race, is now past Lilac Zia for P7. So he's still got that fight going on in the midfield. Bobby Blowers, I believe, involved there, now sliding up the inside of Lilac Zia. Lilac's been using that outside line for the entire race so far, and pretty much making it work, but everyone's doing everything they can to try and get past her. Still on that fuel-saving strategy, as we've seen, for the queen of alternate strategies, who's only down in P8 at the moment. Let's see if she can pull some off again today.
A little bit of contact from Alex Miller, trying to keep her pinched to that top side and just banding wheels slightly on entry of 1 to make that move happen. Nothing too dramatic, but guys, the downside of going on that high side, you leave the bottom side open, and some guys will take more than they deserve. Again, we saw Eli Sasek and Olivia Sharp come to blows, as looks like that's Mo Perry on the apron, letting the leaders by, and potentially pulling it down pit road again. Cannot get that car in a functional condition after the early incident. But for now, it's actually Parker Alexander who leads the pack behind on fresh tyres, Emily Howe falling back. And the front two are starting to pull away again with these two fighting.
Looking up ahead at Eli Sasek, going to be about 3/10 away from lead Pelletier Sharp. Lap times have been close and actually been in the favor of those on the older rubber. Parker Alexander having no easy time defending on Austin Farr. Austin has stayed so close, trying to lunge it a little bit further into the corners, down to the inside. Hasn't been able to make it stick. However, they are dead even coming down the front straightaway. It's advantage now Farr. Parker Alexander goes high, and the distraction might have just come to an end here. They are all three of which in the top 3, very close on times, separated by only about 7 thousandths of a second apiece from fastest to slowest, and Lily Pelletier Sharp still looks to be about the pace of Austin Farr. They were dead even that time by an exact lap times down to 1,000th. So for Lily, might not be much of a worry. Eli Sasek still only 400ths back. Not too much to worry about, but I think now Austin Farr coming to grips with his equipment and might be the driver to watch here as he gains a 10th on Lily and 2 on Eli Sasek in just 1 lap alone.
Further back down the field, more contact involving Lilac there. This time it was Bobby Blowers making front to rear contact going into turn 1. Lilac seemed to have gotten away with it on that rear end, but Bobby Blowers, with some damage on that right front end plate, has fallen down 4 spots now and is really ailing after that incident about 5 laps ago. He's going to be hoping for a caution to bring that car down and get that win replaced. Is currently 3 or 4 tenths a lap off the pace. That is what we saw near the start of the race. That left Brandon Cruz dangerously close to falling a lap down to Austin Farr, who is still closing on Eli Sasek, now within 2 or 3 tenths, as Lily Pelletier Sharp pulls a 1-second gap at the front of the field.
Contact isn't really something you want in these sorts of cars. With how aero sensitive they are, any little bit of damage is going to kill any pace the car has. You can get away with a little bit of that side-to-side, wheel-to-wheel contact that we saw earlier, but if you've got any other piece of any other car touching something like your front or rear wing, that's when you start to run into trouble.
Looking on board now with Austin Farr. He's hoping to have no trouble in a pass here for Eli Sasek. He'll go down to the inside, looking low quickly, and it looks the advantage into 1 for the number 52. Not going to work out. Eli Sasek remains high, gets in the wall, and that might be a little more trouble for Sasek. Stays up top, and it's going to be an opportunity now as Carmen Sienna is going to lose a little bit of time on that lap and stay straight. All the while, Sasek going to be side by side with Austin Farr. Farr dives in slightly deeper, nearly clear, and it looks like he will be, and gets ahead. That's for second. Austin Farr now going to be about a 10th and a 2nd and 3/10 away from Lily Pelletier Sharp, and a 10th ahead of the driver in the number 9. Sasek passed. Farr now in his 2nd, and another swap inside the podium here with 83 laps on the day.
I've got to give a little bit of credit to Carmen Sienna. She lost the back end coming out of turn 4 as she hits the wall once again. Managed to save it without going into the barrier on the inside. A little bit of miraculous driving from our glorious leader there.
Yeah, a little bit of damage you see on the right front end plate, but if you have time to look back at that replay, doing some lawn mode in the grass and then a bit of a skateboard trick as she hit the sieve on the end of Victory Lane. As we are under caution once again, it's into turn 3 this time, and Nicholas Pressey coming off for the worst of it.
That's our championship leader.
Yeah, and it looks like it's another piece of contact involving Lila Zir. But this time the 89 playing a little bit more of a factor, just tapping the wall on the exit of 2, looking to Kreutz and into the path of our championship leader, the 94 car, whose day will be done, and that'll bring out our 4th caution of the night here.
Once again, a wrench in the equation here for strategy. Going to be a huge change here about halfway into this race. From here on out, 80-odd laps if we go back green. Of course, regularly scheduled. It's going to be 90-some, as a matter of fact. I don't think the one stop is possible right now to go for the rest of the way. There's a chance, or rather the no stop. I think we're going to one stop no matter what. But this is an opportunity for Peltier Sharp to get on even footing with Austin Farr. And maybe a chance to see this number 18 stay up in front as everyone comes down to pit road this time by. Pace car going to be making its move through. You'll see a few drivers. Ryan there, one of those who stayed out, and we're watching pit exit as it looks like the advantage going to be with Brandon Cruz, then Lily Peltier Sharp, Alex Miller comes out, Eli Sasick, and as such, it's going to be a bit of a shuffle up in front. Few drivers that are familiar, few others that made some big gains, and as such, as we look up in front of the field, new faces mixed with those who have already been up in front for a while. It looks like Lily Peltier Sharp gets away nicely, but just within the range of the number 18, you'll see Alex Miller, and number 54, Brandon Cruz, goes down and in now once again. It looks like Peltier Sharp is set to be in control.
Yeah, Cruz did not make an intentional call there, missed his pit stall, and had to come back down again. But it's Austin Farr now taking the gamble. Deciding being stuck behind the traffic isn't where you want to be. Stays out on these old tyres and is able to break away nice and early, with Christina Ryan looking to follow. Of course, our Season 2 champion wasn't able to race this race when we came here in Season 3 because she was in the booth. And now as these roles reverse between me and her, she's going to restart behind our dominant driver who already has 3 wins and is looking for a 4th this season. It looks like Lilac there, needing to fix a bit of damage on that car, has come down pit road a couple of times here. Giving the mechanics a lot of time to work on the machine. Of course, not much time to stop, to stay stationary under caution even, because of how short the pace laps are. And so you've got to do it in bursts.
That's such a shame to see. I was really interested to see how her strategy worked out today. But we do have Austin Farr now, as we say, taking a little bit of that gamble. Being backed up by Christina Ryan, so he's not out there all on his own for this one. He's hoping very much that he and Christina can pull away a little bit at the front, and Christina can act as a pseudo rear gunner. Obviously, she has no horse in the fight, no reason to keep everyone behind for Austin, but she's going to do everything she can to stay in front of everyone behind until the next caution period. Because at this rate, it feels like there's going to be another caution period.
They're on 36 laps on this stint, about halfway through the fuel tank. So unless we go green for another 30 or 40 laps, they will have the chance to pit under caution. But if we do get a long green flag run breaking out, and it seems to always come when you don't want it to, that could put them in severe danger, as they will have to pit well before the rest of the field.
Austin Farr still up in front, and he's one of another pair of drivers looking to make this old tire strategy work out. The previous drivers who have done so are still running within the confines of the top 10, save for Carmen Sienna, who did a little bit of lawn mowing, as we mentioned previously. Austin Farr gets the jump over Christina Ryan, back on the move, the 52 with the lead, but this time not with a tire edge. Lily Peltier Sharp leads all those on the new rubber.
Christina Ryan doing a fantastic job to stick with Austin Farr so far, but Lily Peltier Sharp currently under attack from Alex Miller, who's dived to the inside of turns 1 and 2 to try and make a move work. Lily carrying that momentum on that outside line, manages to fend him off for this particular corner, but Alex comes through again, squeezing her right up to the outside wall on the start-finish stretch. Not being able to make that work once again though. Lily carrying all that momentum around the outside and stays ahead for now.
Yeah, Miller came in for fuel only on that last stop, in fact, and so had the tyres fired up a little bit, and Sharp caught the wall out before, nearly does again. It opens the door for the 49 once again, but as these laps tick down, the tyres are gonna fire up on that 18 machine, and she's gonna clear again coming out of turn 2. As long as she can keep 3 and 4 clean here, should be home free and safe to start looking forward to Christina Ryan, who she's fallen more than a second off the back of in that little fight.
Keeping our eyes at the front of the field though, Austin Farr on those over 40 lap old tyres now. A couple of laps ago set the fastest race lap of a 17.2. He is not saving fuel right now. He's doing everything he can to try and build that gap he needs to the rest of the field, whilst we still wait for Lily Pelletier Sharp's tyres to come up to temperature.
You don't stay out under a caution and then start fuel saving. If you're committed, you want to lead this race from the front, and that is what Austin Farr is looking to do here, setting laps 3-4 tenths faster than anyone else with that light fuel load. And Lily Pelletier Sharp has to first of all catch and pass Christina Ryan, and then make up another 1.5 seconds to get to the rear to fuse Rob 52 car.
She doesn't currently have the pace advantage as it stands, but we've still got a handful of laps to go before we start seeing, potentially seeing the tyre wear for the lead 2 cars start to come into play.
I think now with the racing the way it's gone, you gotta wonder, is that going to be what really changes everything? Past few runs where the drivers get the lead with the old tires, they haven't really lost it. Carmen Sienna had it before the pit cycle, then immediately after, Lily Pelletier Sharp had it before the pit cycle, and now Austin Farr in the hands of course, the race leading position. Maybe there's an opportunity to hold on until the next pit stop. They're almost inevitable the way things that have been going on the track, with a caution bringing us back on the way to pit road. Maybe that's, of course, what Austin Farr is planning for, with a 2-second lead on track. Not going to be slowing down in the slightest. Eli Sasek up high on Alex Miller. That's a close call. Miller going to block, and as such, no trouble there. The number 45 gets, once again, a spot pushed back. Eli Sasek going to push back as well. Ruby Acosta going to be right behind a battle with Elias Flores and Emily Howe. Midfield is getting close to one another, and it looks like Alexander nearly up in the wall there in the black and yellow number 45. No drivers getting involved with some trouble here in these groups. They're a little bit smaller than they were earlier in the race, but they're still very aggressive racing. And Eli Sasek, he's trying to find a way around, but I don't think he's got any room. That's going to help Parker Alexander, and now Parker makes it up to 6th.
A pack there fighting on the edge of the top 5, but back down for P12, got 4 car clusters. Carmen Sienna looking to defend off these drivers on the outside line, and Lila did looking to recover after that incident that brought out the previous caution. But they're all slowing each other up. They're running 18-second laps while everyone ahead is well into the 17s, and they're already more than half a lap down to our leader, who now has a 3.5 second lead to Christina Ryan, who is still managing to fend off Lily Pelletier Sharp without too much trouble here.
Craig Forsyth, though, doing a brilliant job to keep Carmen pinned to the inside there. You can see it's really been starting to burn off her right rear tyre as she's been struggling on corner exit for these last couple of laps. Just been watching her catch a couple of slides as she gets one on entry there, checking herself right the way up as she half spins again and goes for a full 180 coming out the final corner, which brings out our 5th caution of the day.
Yeah, and it looks like Austin Farr will trap Carmen Sienna a lap down there. The 96 car has been struggling coming out of turn 4 there. Very loose, consistently. Managing to keep control of the car and save it once again. But not what she will have wanted. And I'll have to hope that Austin Farr pits here to give her the wave around. But it didn't have very rough tyres to run on here.
Yeah, it is. Austin Farr and Christina Ryan both pitting. Carmen Sienna staying out on track to get that lap back.
Well, it's a much shorter stint that we had there, only about 20 laps from pit stop to pit stop. Looks like it will be the car of Lily Pelletier Sharp who stays out and takes a lot of the cars who did pit on that last caution, taking the opportunity, but some of them still not wanting to pit. Christina Ryan one who has come down pit road for a fresh set of tyres. Of course, but Parker Alexander, Eli Sassett, Elias Flores, Craig Forsyth, none of them wanting to make a pit stop so soon after previous stop, and with about 8 laps left to go in this race, those tyre limits are going to start being important. We've seen some cars make 4, 5, even 6 trips down pit lane. You only have 5 spare sets of tyres in there. If you've taken a set every time, you are in a world of trouble here. But of course, everyone who does make the choice to pit here would be able to fuel save to the end if necessary. The window is just about open, but not at full push. And so, people like Austin Farr and Emily Howe, who we've seen wanting to try and break away and run clean laps in ultimate pace, they're probably not good to the end. People like Lilac Zir, maybe Christina Ryan, they might have a chance here to make it to the end. If we stay green, and that's a big if, given that we are under our, 6th caution of the night now?
Well, we did see Lilac Zir taking on those extensive car repairs not too long ago in this race. So, as much as I'd be banking on her to make that alternate strategy call if it came to it, which we know she will, something that's going to have to be kept an eye on is her pace, to see if that damage is still lingering and mithering her pace.
Yeah, she didn't have great pace in that last stint, but of course was trapped behind that battle, led by Carmen Sienna, who got forced into the mistake to bring out the caution. We'll have to see what her pace was in clean air. It looks like might have set a 17.5 on one of the few laps that she had a clean run, and so that car might be back in one piece. We'll have to see how it goes in this next stint. But it's the top 5 all now making the alternate strategy on tyres, staying out. Emily Howe and Bobby Blowers taking fuel only in pit lane. So we have 7 cars still on an old set of tyres here, as we know Wanted Green and Carmen Sienna, after a very sketchy spin to bring out the caution, will be given her lap back, but we'll have the worst tyres of anyone in this field, I'd have to wager.
Watching Carmen cruise right back up to the back of the field, 15 on the lead lap as Carmen's going to join them once again. Lily Peltier-Sharp is now going to have a little more backup than the usual for those who stay on the old tires. It's going to be 5 drivers opting to take the strategy compared to the usual 2. So few drivers taking the risk. Maybe an opportunity now to figure out whether or not it's the right choice as drivers come in this time by through the Geico restart zone. Green flag again, going to be led by Peltier-Sharp with Parker Alexander right behind.
Now, Austin Farr already diving to the very low side, tried to get a run on Craig Forsyth, but the momentum on the outside line is going to hold the 52 at bay for now. Parker Alexander looking all the way to the top, and actually it'll be Emily Howe, whose tyres, as we mentioned, still on the old set, already fired up, sweeps around the outside of Austin Farr, and they will go nearly 3 wide with Craig Forsyth. These two let out of pit lane and are trying to make up ground quickly, but it's going to be Craig Forsyth still putting on a staunch defense and letting these top 4 break a little bit of a gap as Emily Howe once again to the inside of the track, and Craig Forsyth looks like will not give it up, will get the run on the exit of the corner and fight it again through 3 and 4.
Austin Farr, we've seen be quite measured and cautious in his approach to this championship so far. But if there is any time to get aggressive, it's going to be right now, as he does get alongside and almost clears Craig Forsyth on the run through turns 1 and 2. Doesn't get the momentum off the corner that he needs yet. But as his tyres do slowly come up to temperature, he's going to get a really nice run through the middle and exit of 3 and 4, and he's going to get that place made. Emily Howe now only 0.4 of a second up the road from him. He's going to need to start getting aggressive.
Well, does he? I mean, it depends how long this run is, but he has the freshest tyres. We've seen the scrub tyres are good on restarts, but as the stint goes on, they do definitely lose a little bit of pace, and we've seen that Austin Farr be able to find all the pace in this car. He might be able to play a bit cautiously here, take his time, not burn up the rubber too much, and just let the cars fall back to him in the next 15, 20, 30 laps. We've got more than 60 laps to go in this race, and we've seen how well Austin can manage a race and manage his tyres, even just last week at New Hampshire.
Yeah, absolutely. But we know how short the green flag runs have been this race so far. So if I'm in his shoes, I want to get moving as soon as possible and try and get myself to the front of that field. Because then if everyone else stops and changes tyres behind you, you could do the same and still come out in the lead.
But if you're too aggressive, you could be the caution that slows the field up again.
I wouldn't want to jinx it, but I don't think Austin's quite the driver who's going to be doing that.
Parker Alexander set the fastest lap of the race a few laps ago in the slipstream with Lily Pelletier sharp. Those top two breaking away a decent margin from Eli Satic and Elias Flores, who are now the ones under attack from Emily Howe and Austin Farr in tow. Got a pack of 2, then a pack of 4, and then the rest of the field fighting on the fringes of the top 10. But for now, it's the 18 and the 45 working together and setting sail on those old tyres.
Old Rubbers has done wonders for these leaders all night long. Something I think, once again, we didn't quite predict, but the conditions are very different compared to usual here. And I think that's maybe one of the quirks of this new Tempest system. The fog, and of course, it's been cloud cover all night long as well, giving us a different glimpse of how these champ cars perform. No matter the condition, we're getting good racing, but tonight the Old Rubber really working out very well. The only driver that's really fell off is Craig Forsyth down into 9th, and Craig, not one of the drivers here who's, of course, the best at the ovals when conditions aren't at the optimal. We already saw Forsyth with a victory at Watkins Glen, however, one of our drivers who knows the twists and turns and gets it done there. The ovals tonight not coming naturally, but overall, it's the tires that might be telling the story different for some drivers than others, and I think those in-car settings make a big difference here. 63 to go. We mentioned some drivers have the opportunity to go all the way if we don't get a caution, but they have to save fuel. And maybe for the drivers right now where Emily Howe on back, those with the younger set of rubber, maybe they're already saving. Maybe they're looking ahead and looking for that opportunity to wait until the end here. 62 to go, not as many drivers on the track. There is a chance we go long, and it could put the drivers like Flores, Sasic, Alexander, and Pelletier Sharp at risk when these drivers really don't have to worry that much if they do everything right.
And of course, now on a 40-lap stint for those 5 cars who stayed out into the last caution. We are 3 wide coming off of turn 2. Austin Farr and Emily Howe both scrambling to get past Elias Flores on those old tyres, but they're now fighting with each other, and we're 3 again. Elias Flores gets the run on the outside. There are 3 different lanes you can run here, and it looks like Emily Howe will be able to close the door, and Elias Flores has nowhere to go, but will now try and follow the 83 machine to get back ahead of Austin Farr. It won't happen. It's now a 2-car fight for 4th place here, with Elias Flores being shuffled back to watch the spectator.
Wow, great bit of driving from all 3 of those drivers there. Elias going up as close to the wall as they could. Emily and Austin leaving each other exactly as much room as they needed. Although Austin very much taking advantage of all of this and keeping alongside Emily Howe for now. Again through 1 and 2, leaving plenty of room for each other. They could squeeze each other a little bit harder, but not wanting to even bother trying to get away from it at this point. Austin Farr now switching to the outside line to try and set up a new style of passing on Emily Howe, who hugs the outside wall through the front stretch but cuts back to the inside, takes that shorter run through turns 1 and 2, making it out to that outside wall nicely without hitting it and just taking the air off Austin's nose late in the corner.
And this is the experience you see from someone who knows this car inside and out. Trying to make a move on one line, cannot make it happen. Tries to flip the script. Tries to get to the outside instead and run the momentum. That wasn't working. Tried to dive inside, but Emily Howe wants to stick into that line. And you see that a lot of champ car experience versus just a lot of raw oval experience, of course. Emily Howe, very fond of the stock cars who do come here fairly often. And so there's a lot of experience of different kinds in these 2 machines, and so far they're just in lockstep. They can't seem to make a move on each other, and that's letting the top 3 make a nice bit of a gap as Austin Farr manages to clear coming through turn 2, and now he's going to have his sights set on the back of the number 9 car, but Emily Howe is not going to give it up that easily.
Yeah, watching these 2 cars because they go back and forth up and down the track with each other, it's very normal for short track racing, especially in cars with as much downforce as these things have. Because you want to be moving around the racetrack, not only getting yourself some clean air, but giving the car behind you some dirty air. It's a bit like a dance. It's a bit of a short track samba, as you're both kind of flirting with each other and playing with each other and all the different lines that you can use on these sorts of tracks. It's always really lovely to see.
When we see the number 40 car, Ruby Acosta, being the first to make a call down pit road. And that is a very interesting call, considering that Ruby was not one of the cars that extended the last stint. Doesn't have to come in here, but saw the window open and decided to gamble on an undercut. But the number 40 machine is going to be at a lot of risk here. This is the danger zone in terms of the cautions. And she's got to wait until the rest of the field pits, if they need to pit at all, to get back onto the lead lap here. As Carmen Sienna also made a pit stop a few laps ago. Still not happy with the balance of the car. And he's currently 2 laps down. So they're fighting each other for the lucky dot if we do get a caution. And whoever doesn't get it is going to be stranded -2 for likely the rest of the race.
Now the question becomes, do we see drivers come in early as well? Nobody else decided to take the gamble. It looks like Carmen Sienna went down a few laps prior. However, for Carmen, the race has been a little tricky after that most recent caution involving the number 96. Looking at Brandon Cruz right now, running around the circuit with Mo Perry, lap machine and Perry, and it looks like another coming in. That's Eli Sasic. So just like that, going to be down and in, and the number 9 machine makes the move through. So for the drivers who are on older rubber, already starting to fade back and consider we might be going for an even longer stint than previously. That being said, the 18 of Peltier Sharp and Parker Alexander are both staying out, and Parker is gaining lap after lap, gaining at least a few hundredths, if not more. Perhaps an opportunity for Parker to grab the race lead, maybe temporarily. If drivers have to go down a pit road, so be it, but maybe a chance to lead a lap or so, as Austin Farr and Emily Howe are now coming up into the picture, and Austin Farr in particular is at least a 10th faster each and every lap. With 45 to go, maybe Austin could capture that race lead naturally without having to worry about strategy.
I think this right now is much more what we were expecting with the tyre drop-off. It's good chunks of time. It's tenths and tenths and tenths per lap. But we are seeing Lily Pelletier Sharp and Parker Alexander having to deal with traffic, which they've been dealing with all race, back in the pack, but not so much folks trying to fight their way to stay on the lead lap. So it's going to be something we need to keep an eye on here as we see who can get through that traffic more efficiently. Austin Farr, one of those drivers who was able to take advantage of the lap traffic last race to make moves on Hamilton Akabuzi last week. So let's see if he can do the same here with only a 1.5 second gap to P2.
Yeah, you've got a couple of cars fighting to stay on the lap. You've got Eli Sasset behind fighting to get back through and take a lap back. Currently 2 down. Would just get back to 1 down if he can clear these 2 cars, but it's an absolute roadblock ahead as Pelletier Sharp on the back of Carmen Sienna, who's fighting to not go 3 laps down, but isn't giving it up. We saw this at Las Vegas as well. Carmen Sienna not wanting to budge as a lapped car, and I'm sure that's going to be very frustrating for the 18 and the 45 as well behind, fighting with Alex Miller, because they don't have the time to wait here. They've got to make a gap now to facilitate their pit stop. With more than 60 laps on these tyres and on this tank, time's running out for these cars that have stayed out, and sooner or later then it has to be a hard left down pit road, and then who knows what can happen. Do the cars that pit have enough fuel to save? And Carmen Sienna nearly getting moved for that one. It's getting very touchy at this battle for the lead, and now Parker Alexander putting pressure on and not giving the 18 car any time to be patient here with this lap traffic.
Yeah, we saw Lily Pelletier Sharp and Carmen Sienna having a bit of contact 2 laps ago, and now they're squeezing each other hard enough, not even leaving any room for Jesus. Carmen squeezing Lily back down to the inside again. Lily using all of the track she's given and then some. This is just, as you say, Liv, opening the door for Parker Alexander to close up. But even then, Alexander's now got Austin Farr to worry about.
Yeah, I think this is too much from the 96 car here. Fighting to stay on the lap that you're on is one thing, but when you're already 2 or 3 laps down and making contact with the lead of the race, I think that's going too far a little bit. Eli Sassett enough file through and try and get one of those laps back as well. And Parker Alexander and Austin Farr just being a little bit patient right now. This is a very difficult part of the race, and this is where, if you're Austin Farr, maybe you're seeing what's going on ahead and thinking, maybe I put it in map 5 just to stay away from what's going on ahead of me. Use chance to fuel save and maybe extend, but I just don't want to get involved in this right now. But he's going to have to, because he's past Parker Alexander and now up the inside of Carmen Sienna. Carmen no longer fighting to keep the lap, but looking like she's still going to try and hold that line that she's on and not give it up immediately. But Austin Farr with the fresh tyres will clear without too much trouble, and now up in second place and on the preferred strategy. Pelletier Sharp and Parker Alexander now entering their 69th lap of the stint. Even with the caution slowing things down, they're going to have to box very soon.
Yeah, a nice green flag run here though so far. With just over 30 laps to go, Austin Farr, as we've mentioned, very much in the hot seat here. He's going to be one of the...
Craig Forsyth hits the attenuator, coming down pit road, gets off the track, no caution, but one of those cars that tried to stay out had forced to a pit stop and made a huge mistake on pit entry. That will be day done for the 27, and we saw this in Season 3. It can be dangerous getting down onto pit road, and for the cars that have to make stops now, they're going to have to be careful.
Only 30 laps to go. That's one of the worst ways to go out there. Nobody else involved, so for Forsyth, not even the saving grace of a caution. I think that's too much damage to come back from with such little time. So Forsyth remains on pit road. Leaders are flying by. And for Craig, that was a top 10 run. And it goes up, unfortunately, there in smoke. Bobby Blauer is going to be about a half second away now from Christina Ryan. Austin Farr going to be just behind Lily Pelletier Sharp. And Lily, while leading, has been on a stint that's gone 72 laps long. It's going to be 28 laps to go. It would come out to about a flat 100. That's not possible. Lily now in a little bit more trouble, and with Forsyth's incident being so silenced, shall we say, nobody else around, no saving grace there. It's going to be a pit stop eventually, and it's going to be closer and closer as the laps wind down. Not a good spot to be in for the 18. Austin Farr in just about the best spot here with some draft from that number 9 of Sasek. I'm just going to ride it out, waiting for Lily to come into pit road.
Parker Alexander down onto pit road. Missed the attenuator, but also missed the speed limit. That'll be a 40-second hold. That'll be at least 2 laps lost for the 45 car. Pelletier Sharp now the only car still staying out from the 2 cautions ago. They're dropping like flies, making mistakes onto pit road. Pelletier Sharp is going to have to be careful to not make a similar mistake and to try and maximize her chances. But with just 25 laps to go, the question is, can anyone else make it on fuel? Have they been saving enough? Did they fill the car enough in that stop to get to the end of this race? I'm not sure. It depends what people have been going for. Again, I'm looking at Lilac Zir. Do you want to definitely try it? But has Austin Farr been saving? Has Emily Howe been saving? Has Bobby Blauer's been saving? We're not going to know until lap 185, 186, until the checkered flag on 187.
Eli Sasek now trying to fight to get his lap back. Looking to the inside of Lily Pelletier Sharp, coming through turns 3 and 4. Not quite enough grip in those tyres left as it stands to do anything. But as the fuel slowly starts to burn off for him, his pace is only going to increase. Lily Pelletier Sharp, though, calling to the pit lane, dives to the inside, gets off the track nice and early, and that's going to let Austin Farr go to the lead of this race.
And nice and safely onto pit road. No mistakes made. Pelletier Sharp's done everything she needs to do now. Her race in the hands of the other drivers, and whether they have managed to make the strategy call work. Because if they haven't and they have to pit before this race is done, she could cycle out back into the lead. But as it stands, she's going to fall 1, potentially 2 laps down, and it's just going to be a waiting game. All eyes now on Austin Farr, Emily Howe, Bobby Blowers, Christina Ryan, Lilac Zir, who are your new top 5, who all have 60 laps run in this stint. We'll be close to 80 by the time we hit the checkered flag. That is about the limit of what these drivers can do, but we did have those 3 or 4 laps under caution to start off the stint. We're looking more like 76, 77 to the checker, and let me tell you, from personal experience, I know that is possible if you're locked in from the very start.
Austin Farr in just about the best spot he could be in right now relative to anyone else. 5-second lead, 18 laps to go, and with the lap time still as quick as ever because the fuel load is of course being used up substantially, it's only going to be a few minutes time until we figure out whether Austin has it made. Looks like Bobby Blau is still going to be coming in and out in our systems here. He's fighting for third, and he's going to be there with Emily Howe, Christina Ryan. All the while, Fars ran away, and only 6 drivers remain on the lead lap, tentatively speaking. And those are the ones who have been able to hold on with this strategy, and they're trying to go for an 80-lap run, which would take them till the very end. It's a risk. I think for a few of these drivers, certainly they're going to make it, but the question is, does everyone here go all the way? Does Bruce Silva? Does Lilac Zier? Does Christina Ryan? There's still question marks on the podium. Nobody's really safe, given that's at about the limit these drivers can handle. 1 or 2 laps could alter everything, but we did, of course, mention just a moment ago, caution. Big deal in that regard, so we'll see if that makes any difference. Elias Flores now coming up on Ruby Acosta. That could be a battle for position. It's going to be for about 11th here, even though the lap machines are still not going to be close at all to your leading drivers. Doesn't mean they're not fighting for position. They're still going to be looking for every point possible. With Nicholas Pressey once again having a down night, there's a lot of points on the table, and you want to look for each and every one as Christina Ryan dives by 2 lappers, and it's going to maintain third. Alex Miller nearly up on the wall there as it's going to be a pass from Carmen Sienna.
Bobby Blau has missed pit road the first time, got in second time, but spared on entry. That would be the 34 out of contention, but if we have the chance, could we go on board with Lilac Zier here? Because if you listen to the engine of the number 89 car coming into the corners, it doesn't sound like she's putting too much work into it. She's really letting it roll through the corner, and I think she's on the fuel save. I don't know about everyone else. But to me, that sounds like a fuel save.
I've been following everyone else's lap times. Austin Farr has been running at a pace 1/10 of a second faster than
Austin Farr's in. Austin Farr.
Yeah, I was about to say
not
he
committed
is
to it.
pushing. He is pushing hard. He's trying to build the gap that he needs. His focus at the moment is Lily Pelletier sharp, and the hopes that everyone else behind him needs to pit once again. But Emily Howe and Christina Ryan will go in, I think, slower enough than him to be fuel saving at this point.
We have 9 laps to go here at the line, and we have still 4 cars on the lead lap staying out on this strategy. Austin Farr has been shuffled 1 lap down here. Managed to avoid going 2 down by the look of things with that gap that he had. But with 8 laps to go, we have 4 drivers in contention to potentially make a fuel save miracle happen. And we had talked about it all race, that how much you can extend the stint. How are they going to might be able to extend it enough? Can they make it all the way? 7 laps to go. It's still 5-6 miles. It's a big ask, but we know these drivers are very skilled. They might have what it takes.
The tension is absolutely palpable. My ears are pricked right now, just listening out for those radio calls from our current top 4 even. Just waiting to see if they make that call to pit road. Emily Howe, Christina Ryan, Lilac Zier, Bruce Silva, all wanting to try and go to the end here. 74 laps done on their stint so far.
And there is also a thing of, we have no overtimes in Champ Car. That's a stock car rule. We don't do that here. And so, maybe some of these cars aren't expecting to take it to the end, but are trying to keep out as long as they can in case a caution was to come out now, and that would let them make it to the end. We have 4 laps to go. I don't think anyone's pitting now. I think if you're still out on track, you're staying out there until the car stops with no fuel. But I think at least one of these cars has what it takes. Austin Farr has gotten back onto the lead lap, but is still 15 seconds back. Oh no! And Zach McBride, a spin out of turn 4, catching the apron mid-corner. will decide this race. We will finish under caution, and it will be Emily Howe leading Christina Ryan and Lilat Zir for the podium of your race. Bruce Silver will fuel save P4, and Austin Farr, our final car on the lead lap, will take home a P5 finish. Not what he was hoping, but that's the way it's gone.
Zach McBride clearly not being able to handle the pressure of waiting for the end of this race, decides he wants to end it early. A single car incident to bring out the last caution of this race, and deciding that top 3 podium finish. I think if the number one question we need to ask this top 3 tonight is, did you have enough fuel to get to the end? Because I'm curious as to how many of them say yes.
Well, there'll certainly be fuel for celebrations here. We weren't necessarily expecting there to be, given that the fuel save scenario, but the pace car being generous enough to give them that opportunity to save maybe a half litre, a litre of fuel, and do some burnouts here, which I'm sure every driver will be looking to do after a hard-fought race. And as we take the white flag, the yellow and the white out at the same time, we will finish under caution, and it'll be a formation finish with Emily Howe and Christina Ryan, and Lilat Zir tried getting formation, but has the laptop Carmen Sienna in the way, not looking to get the ire of race control. A 1, 2, 3, 4 on fuel mileage, and Austin Farr will not get his 4th win. We'll have to wait for maybe the next round, but it'll be a top 5.
With Nicholas Pressy's early race exit, that is Emily Howe's 2nd win of the championship, and it will take her to the lead of the Champ Car World Series.
Well, how about that? And as we get information coming to the checker, there's your podium, and the celebrations have started already. And that tells you she has enough fuel at least for that. So maybe did have enough to the end, but we'll, of course, have to get that question in the interviews. And you can see what it means. Emily Howe's 2nd win of the season. And it's a 1-2 between the 83 and the 80. For not the first time, we saw it in our season opener at Chicago Land in the opposite order. This time, Emily Howe leads them to the checker.
Just enough fuel to burn it down. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see how it played out at the very end. You never know if it was going to change or if they were all going to be able to make it, but maybe a saving grace for some more than others. It looks like Emily going to park it, and as such, race results are in. They've been in for the past few laps, but now everything is full well confirmed. Let's take a look from top to bottom at your order here from Richmond. Going to be a caution that ends the race, and Emily Howe and the Fuel Savers get lucky on that note. It's going to be Emily who gets it done for the win, with Christina Ryan then 2nd and Lilat Zir in 3rd, with Bruce Silva position number 4. It'll be Austin Farr to round out the top 5, and he's the first of which to go down to pit road and still get up there. And then it's going to be 6th, Lily Peltier Sharp, and Eli Sasek is going to be in 7th. Alex Miller, position number 8, and 9th is going to be Ruby Acosta, with Elias Flores concluding the top 10.
Brandon Cruz, final car, 1 lap down in this running, will finish 11th after starting from the very back of the field. Carmen Sienna falling to P12 after some lawn mowing, some troubles out of turn 4 a couple of times in this race. Bobby Blowers, Sad McBride, Parker Alexander, Craig Forsyth, Mo Perry all running into late race issues. Nicholas Pressey, Ruby Estes, Joshua Gaiman, Emma Kruger, Bryce Sosia, Tommy Withers, and Sophie Connell not made it to the halfway point. An attrition-filled race, but one with a fantastic final green flag run that made all the difference.
Now, as you look to your race results, all 3 of our podium drivers, they're going to be ones who have stories to tell. We're going to get off, of course, with our 3rd place finisher, the one we speak to usually. First of which, tonight, going to be Lilat Zir, who once again takes that alternate strategy for a wild ride, a successful performance for the number 89 team, and we'll bring Lilat in this time by and get a word from the driver who rounds out our podium here in Richmond. So, figure out, of course, where the podium is. Looks like they're all waiting for us, and Lilac Zier, your third place finisher, is standing by.
Well, this is great.
Lilac, another top 3 finish. How about that?
Yeah, well, started good, ended good. The middle was a little weird, but hey, I'll take it.
I can't believe you managed to get damage at some point in a race, which turned into the alternate strategy, which turned into another podium position. I thought you were out of it there in the middle with the late race damage, but you managed to get the car down pit road, and then you made the unsurprising decision to take the fuel save to the end.
Yeah, I was just trying to save and kind of ride in the middle there, and I think everyone else wanted to go, and maybe they, wanted to drive it a little deeper into the corners than I was driving into the corners, which is fine, but, gotta still know how long the nose of your car is. So that gave me wheel damage and a little bit of side damage, maybe. I'm not sure, really. And it felt weird for a few laps, and I got used to it. But I was still thinking I was, not going to finish very well. So I came in and got a bunch of repairs with 90 to go, and then I was going to mega fuel save and see what happened, but I knew we couldn't make it from there. Then we got a caution, 10 laps later, about 80 to go. I'm like, oh, I can make it from here. I'm going to try anyway. And I'm surprised more people didn't, because it was just, for having that many cars on the track, on a short track, we had some long green runs early on, and I thought we could get a long green run to the end. So I'm glad I made it. I'm glad I did that strat, because I was good to go if it went green, but I think the top 2 were as well. So I think third was the best I could do, honestly.
You answered my last question there. The one question that was on everyone's mind was, did you all have enough fuel to get to the end? And it sounds like you definitely did. I think there was also one thing that surprised us up in the booth tonight. We thought the tyre drop-off on older rubber would be a lot more dramatic than it ended up being in the race. Was that a surprise to you, or was that very much expected?
Yeah, I thought they'd fall off more. I was a little surprised late in the race that I came out, or that, a car that had fresh tires came out in front of me and didn't pull away, and I was like, oh. I guess I'm still doing pretty good lap times here. But a lot of things surprised me today. I didn't think I was going to win the pole either.
Well, if saying that, what was the thing that most surprised you today? Did that change how you approached the race, or did you just go into it the same despite whatever the surprise might be?
It didn't change my approach, but it helped my approach, which was to try to stay up front and just work the fuel numbers early on, and just keep as much track position as I could while still keeping the strategy where I wanted it. And in the middle there, I was actually a little bit sort of unsure what to do at one point, and I came into the pits and thought I should have stayed out. So I quickly unchecked my tires and just did fuel only, but I didn't really gain that many spots, and maybe that was a mistake. But it turned out not to matter.
Well, at the end of the day, it was a brilliant bit of driving that nets you another fantastic P3. So if there's anyone you want to thank, shout out. The airwaves are yours.
Yeah, shout out to my team, Gear Cats, and my teammates, and shout out to the broadcast team and everybody that puts this on. Shout out to all the racers. Shout out to the fans, and everyone who's nice. Everyone who's nice gets a shout out.
Thank you, Lilac. Congratulations once again. Go for go.
Thank you.
Lilac Zier on the move, third place finisher, was a little more confident in making it all the way no matter what. And now we gotta ask the same question. Did our top 2 have what it took to get to the end under green? We're gonna figure that out with a familiar face, 2 familiar faces coming up, first of which, of course, Christina Ryan, the number 80, standing by with us right now.
Hey, Christina, it is Olivia from the ABN booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, you got me.
Feels a bit weird doing it in this order. It's usually the other way around. But congratulations, another 1-2 finish with Emily Howell there. Of course, a bit of an inverse from what we saw at Chicago Land. What was that race from your perspective? Obviously, it's an important bounce back after a couple of really unfortunate weeks in Champ Car. So, talk us through, how was the race there? How did the car feel? And most importantly, did you have the fuel to make it under green?
Oh yeah, I was eating Emily up. I don't know that I would have passed her by the checkers. I don't think there was just quite enough time, but it was definitely putting the pressure on. So would have been fun to see what would have happened if it stayed green. But no, we were really good. I had the whole thing kind of planned out, and I know it's an unorthodox strategy to stay out on old tires, but that's exactly what I did. I know that's what won me the race in Iowa a year ago, and did the same thing here because I had a really poopy qualifying, and got myself slowly working up the field and ran up front. Was like, dang, my tires are garbage, and I still can pull away from people who pit. So as soon as that last caution came out, I knew that if I pit, I'd at least make it, and I told myself that if we got a caution any more than 20 laps into that run, I was not taking any more tires for the rest of the race. So I was set for the finish, if it went green or not, and saved all the things I needed to save at the beginning. And yeah, I had like 2 or 3 laps left still. I was bumping up the fuel mixture every lap or two to try and put some pressure on. Obviously, I didn't want to race too hard because I might get punched in the face in real life if I do that. So but yeah, no, it was super fun. Feels really good to go out. I didn't use anybody else's strategy. I didn't. We shared bars and stuff, but I didn't follow a strategy. I made my own, and I paved my own way today, and I'm really proud of that.
Yeah, a fantastic professional drive from, of course, someone with plenty of experience in this series. It really did seem like the conditions today favoured the longer on the tyres. They took a long time to fire up, and they held their pace. Of course, the sun's now out for the celebrations tonight, but how did that low track temp and the fog surrounding the track, how did that affect the way the car ran here today?
Oh, it was just cool. I mean, I don't know. We ran Winstall last weekend, and a sandstorm blew in. So I was already used to seeing through smog. So I don't know. It didn't feel much different. I think the car was just a little bit on the understeer side, and we made some adjustments to work on that as the day went on, and then eventually got some help from other drivers to get that about where I needed it, and I did some sleuthing from there to try and get it how I wanted it. And no, I mean, other than that, I think it was just I don't know if it was the temperature or just the way the setup was, but that outside line was electric, and I really enjoyed running it. It definitely works that way in the stock cars too, in certain scenarios, but felt like the lanes were fun. I really had a great time. I think New Hampshire was a great race too, but unfortunately I missed out on that. And then 2 weeks ago I got caught up in pack race shenanigans. Sometimes you're the windshield and sometimes you're the bug. I was the bug the last 2 weeks, but no, we came back strong. And like I said, to do that, you work with other people so closely usually, and sometimes it takes a little bit of the fun out of it when everybody gives you a strategy and says, here's what we're doing. So it was super fun to just kind of be like, all right, well, here's what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm going to stick to. And for that to work out and put us on the podium and had a shot to go for the win against as stacked of a field as this is, I couldn't be happier. I'm super stoked about that. We almost got a second one.
Yeah, for sure. It's a fantastic performance. We have a break next week and then on towards the final stretch of the season. First up, our final road course of the season at Long Beach. I know it's a track where you've shown good pace before. How are you looking forward to that one? And then onto the home stretch, Fontana, Kansas, Milwaukee, Phoenix, and then of course the Arrowhead 500 at Indianapolis.
It really helps that I've already won one of these things. I really don't care about the points so much. I haven't even checked it in about 4 weeks, so I don't know where I'm at. But Long Beach is always fun. I won't be as good as those top tier drivers like Farr are, but we'll have some pace, I think, for top 10. I just really like racing there. I'll probably knock a wall down halfway through, and that'll be that. But no, it's cool. I know a lot of the people around me in the points typically kind of aren't as good at road courses as we are, at least historically speaking. So, but again, that's from 4 weeks ago around me in points. I have no idea what it looks like now, but just try to have some fun with it. The last couple weeks really sucked, but we bounced back tonight, and obviously I love Kansas. I love auto club, even though it's a bit of a cluster, you know what, sometimes. But yeah, from there on, it's just, I don't know, just race my ass off and see what happens.
Well, bouncing back and onwards and upwards from here, congratulations on your P2 finish here tonight. If Sue want to shout out, the floor is yours. Congratulations on an excellent run here at Richmond.
Thanks. Yeah, obviously shout out to everybody who comes out and cheers me on every week, whether I get clobbered or end up on the podium. Super stoked to have worked my way out of the hole I dug myself in quali. Had a really fun time tonight, so big shout out to everybody in chat. Shout out obviously to both my roommates, they're sweethearts, and obviously shout out to everybody in my camp over on the Twitch side of things, and I think that's about. I race for myself now, so I guess I got that going for me, or I got the stepping stone. But it's been fun. Super stoked. Looking forward to the rest of these races, and hopefully we got all of our crashing out of the way for the season. But I have a feeling we haven't. But yeah.
Thank you for joining us, and be sure to wave that one of those roommates in for us, because I'm sure David would love to have a word. Thank you, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, take care.
A lot of opportunities up ahead for Christina Ryan and that team in particular. Long Beach coming up, that's going to be a very exciting one. And just before, of course, we get to our winner coming up right next, we are taking that 1 week break, and it is going to be that last leg, which all culminates in a trip to the Brickyard. Going to be a very fun continuation of the tour. So if you're watching right now and you haven't already, make sure to leave a follow on ABN Esports on the page here. The broadcast will be up on YouTube within the coming days if you want to rewatch it. We'd love to have your support there as well as the Champ Car action continues. One more Wednesday off, and then we are full sail for the rest of the season. What other thing we got to get through is our final interview of the night with the 83. Full sail until the caution. Emily Howell, the checkered flag was yours tonight, and it all came down to fuel saving and a caution just to finish it all off, wrapping up an action-packed night here in Richmond. Through the ups and downs, how was it there for the 83 team coming out with the checkered flag?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun this week. Lots of moving around, lots of fun moving through the field. So fantastic race. I'm sure the fans at home saw a really good time out there. We were able to use all 3 lanes and really tons of strategies, a lot of diverging strategies there at the end. So really fun race.
And we saw so many different factors playing a part. One thing we've asked, of course, already to everyone on the podium, the pit strategy and running for up to 80 laps. If we were to go green, you think you were confident in making it there with the extra fuel you had?
So it was a yes asterisk. I went hard the first 30 laps trying to bait Austin Farr into burning up more fuel and hoping that he would kind of keep going, and he did. So that kind of gave me the win. But at the same time, Christina was saving that whole time, so she was about 2 laps to the good there, and she was able to burn fuel. So I pretty much could not burn any more fuel. I was riding around the 6th gear in map 5 and just clutching and coasting it. So I was at the money on fuel. I was going to make it, but I didn't have anything to burn if I started battling with Christina there at the end.
Just enough to make it around to the current circumstances. Of course, that was the longest stretch we had of about the entire night, but you were one of the drivers who decided to stay out and go a bit longer. We saw that the old tires weren't all too slow relative to everyone else, and tire wear wasn't the biggest of deals when all was said and done tonight. It was a little bit different than what we predicted. So what led you to the choice to stay out on 30-odd lap old tires and go from there till the very end?
Well, realistically, I just knew that, like we came in and we topped off, and so I knew that we were kind of better than a lot of the field. So, like you said, the tires really didn't matter, and if we're going to be saving fuels, track is going to be more important than having, those extra tires on. So, realistically, I probably should have gotten on the strategy earlier, but it worked out in the end.
Everything plays out just right, given all the circumstances. Do you think there was any impact with the fog? We mentioned it. It's one of the foggiest races we've seen on the platform. New weather system, a few quirks along the way. You think there's any way that played maybe in your benefit or went against you?
It definitely kept the track a little bit cooler. At least seems like so. kind of made it to where the bottom was kind of the place to be and didn't really move to the top too bad and kind of kept the tires in us. Really the biggest thing was probably the wind. We had about 10 to 15 mile an hour wind that whole time, kind of changing directions that really would change how the car handled. Especially if we got a gust, we get a gust and then it will suddenly snap off a 2 or 4 and you have to really keep your hands tight on that one. The fog kind of does help do some weird stuff too because the sun kind of peeks through, but it kind of obscures the shadow, so you really can't tell what part of the track is cool, what part's really getting hot from the sun.
That being said, I think we're going to go to a track next up where the sun should be shining. It's going to be a road course. The last of the season, it's going to be Long Beach. And the team has already seen its success, of course, with the ovals. Maybe a chance to take it on to the twists and turns after our week break.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'll be honest, I have never driven this car on a road course, so it's going to be one of those deals where, learn as we go and hopefully show some good pace. I am a pretty decent road driver. Comparative to a lot of the oval drivers. So hopefully should be able to get up there. I'm sure guys like Hamilton and Farr are also damn good road drivers too. So hopefully have a podium and kind of, keep it off the wall. That's going to be the biggest factor, is just keep it off the wall and out of the fountain.
It's a narrow track, a lot like Richmond, but of course its own quirks. Long Beach up next, but tonight, Emily Howe, soaking up the checkered flag, taking the victory here in Virginia. If you have any final shout-outs, make sure to let us know here and now.
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone for showing up tonight. Put on a great show. Everyone who race cleaned with us tonight. All the fans for tuning in. Everybody behind the scenes at ABN. All the Taylor Mills and Olivia Haywards and David Kreutz back at the shop. I want to thank everyone at Winstell for helping spot and strategy and all the various things that went into the night.
Just like that, Emily Howe getting it done, fuel mileage, weather, and so much more. But the 83, the one driver with the victory. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Emily Howe on the move. We've spoken to your podium for tonight's event. Emily Howe going to get it done over second spot, which is going to go to driver of number 80, Christina Ryan and Lilac Zier to round out the podium. It's a 1 week break. We don't see a lot of these breaks in the season, so it's going to be a bit of a shift in the rhythm before we get back to action. Long Beach up next. We discussed it, of course, the full length just yet. Twists and turns before we head on to California. Think there's any preface we should give to the viewers as we head on to our next challenge?
Long Beach is my home. Oh my goodness me, I love that track so much. There's nothing more I love particularly in sports car racing, than sending a prototype around the streets of Long Beach. Fortunately, these cars are essentially prototype race cars in that they are bespoke, built for racing. And when it's around tracks as tight as Long Beach, that's when you really get those thrills, because you've got cars that are doing 300 kilometers an hour, nearly 200 miles an hour into turn one, that are jostling for position, battling back and forth, trying to make the most of those passing opportunities when they come. Because at Long Beach, they're few and far between. You're going to be looking at turn one, you're going to be looking at some cutbacks later on in the circuit, into the final sector as well, and maybe even some late moves into the hairpin. If the last two races weren't a thriller, this next one's going to be.
It's certainly a very different challenge seeing these cars on a street circuit. We saw a little bit of the tight walls at the Charlotte Roval, but it's another thing entirely at places like Long Beach, at places like Belle Isle, and now potentially the Chicago street course throwing itself into the mix. So we're going to see who's that edge, because it takes every ounce of a driver's focus to see at a place like that. As we saw here, of course, as well tonight, the short tracks race a bit like road courses, and maybe someone will play a strategy play in a couple weeks' time as well. I'm just proud that the Richmond legacy continues of the fuel call being the deciding factor on another great race here in Champ Car.
We can't wait to bring the Champ Car racing action back to you tonight. Wednesday night to remember with the weather and the strategy, Richmond Raceway did not disappoint. Thank you for watching our presentation here, the Champ Car World Series, exclusively on ABN Esports. I've been David Kreutz, alongside Olivia Hayward and Taylor Mills, the commentary crew for tonight's racing event, and we hope to see you back in 2 Wednesdays' time as we return to the Long Beach Street Circuit, as we're going to have a Grand Prix in California you won't want to miss. If you haven't already, make sure to leave a follow to the ABN Esports channel and check out our video on demand service on YouTube, where all broadcasts will be left after the races conclude. Check it out within 24 hours. We should have the broadcast up by then, and we hope you watch it back and, of course, immerse yourself in all the fantastic racing throughout 2024. We thank you for your support on the channel, and we hope you leave a follow. Thank you for watching tonight, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.